am Marina Petrova. I am 23 years old, and a month ago my grandfather, Ivan Petrov, gave me his technology company, Petrov TK, worth $12.6 billion. It should have been the happiest day of my life, but it quickly turned into a nightmare when my mother Ekaterina and her new husband Roman Belov tried to take everything from me. I never thought that my own mother would betray me, especially after everything my grandfather did for our family. But when she confronted me with the choice between the inheritance and the house, Grandpa grinned so hard that it sent a shiver down Roman's spine. To understand why Ivan chose me as his successor, you need to know our family history. I grew up in St. Petersburg, mostly under my grandfather's care, after my father, Ivan's only son, died in a car accident when I was 11. My mother, Ekaterina, was devastated at first, but within a year she was more interested in social life than raising a grieving daughter. "Your mother copes with grief in her own way," my grandfather explained when I cried because she missed school events. He never spoke ill of her, but his eyes showed disappointment. Ivan Petrov was a legend in the tech industry. He founded Petrov Tech in his garage in the early 80s with nothing but determination and a brilliant mind. By the time I was born, the company was worth billions of rubles, and by the time I graduated from high school, it had expanded internationally to a valuation of over 10 billion. Despite his success, Grandpa remained humble and hardworking. "Money doesn't define Marina's character," he told me. "It's her actions that define her." After my father died, I spent most of the summer at my grandfather's dacha outside St. Petersburg. While my peers were hanging out in shopping malls or on the beaches of the Gulf of Finland, I accompanied Ivan to the Petrov Tech offices, absorbing everything I could about the business. By the time I was 17, I was helping with basic market research, and by 19, I was sitting in on product development meetings. The employees saw me grow up, and many became like family to me. I enrolled in St. Petersburg State University in the Business Administration Department with a minor in computer science, working at the company every summer. My grandfather never pressured me to join the family business, but he beamed with pride when I showed interest. "You have your father's intelligence and my stubbornness," he said. "A powerful combination." Meanwhile, my mother, Ekaterina, had one dubious boyfriend after another. She was beautiful and charming when she wanted to be, but her taste in men was terrible. After her father's death, she was drawn to people who were the opposite of him, loud, irresponsible, often selfish. And then Roman Belov appeared. He entered our lives 6 months ago when my mother brought him to a family dinner at the dacha. Roman was different from her usual type. A former sales manager at Techninfora, one of our competitors, he was polite, eloquent, and completely charmed my mother. But my grandfather and I immediately noticed the calculating look with which he looked around our house, asked questions about the company, and was more interested in Ivan's business connections than in his relationship with us. "I don't trust this man," Grandpa told me alone after dinner. He wasn't there for Ekaterina, but Mom was in love. 3 months later, they were married in a lavish ceremony at a restaurant on Nevsky Prospect, which Roman convinced Mom to pay for in full. I stood next to her like a bridesmaid, forcing myself to smile, while Roman eyed the wealthy guests his grandfather had invited. After the wedding, Roman quit his job, saying he wanted to focus on his family life. He began showing up at Petrov Tech events uninvited, introducing himself as part of the family business. Employees would call me in confusion when he asked for confidential reports or tried to sit in on strategy meetings. Around this time, my grandfather's health was deteriorating. He'd suffered a heart attack 2 years earlier, and the stress of watching Roman swirl around his life's work wasn't helping. I took on more responsibilities at the company, learning all I could from my grandfather while we still had time. "I don't worry about the company, Marina," he told me one evening as we went over quarterly reports in his office at the dacha. "I worry about you and your mother when I have 700 words." Roman Belov came into our lives like a whirlwind, charming my mother, Ekaterina, with his polished manner and eloquence. 3 months after they met, they were married in a lavish ceremony at a restaurant on Nevsky Prospect, paid for entirely by my mother. I stood nearby, feigning a smile, while Roman looked at the wealthy guests invited by Grandpa Ivan. He gave his mother a Matryoshka doll as a wedding souvenir, as if to emphasize his connection to Russian culture. But I saw his eyes gliding over the crowd, looking for business contacts. After the wedding, Roman quit his job at the Techno Informer, declaring that he wanted to be a family man. But soon he began showing up at Petrovtek events uninvited, posing as part of the family business. Employees called me in confusion. He asked for confidential reports, tried to sit in on strategy meetings. "Who is this man?" asked Sofia Chinka, our technical director, after Roman demanded access to the drawings of the new project. I felt the tension in the company growing. Grandfather's health was deteriorating. The heart attack 2 years ago had sapped his strength, and now the stress of Roman's actions was only making things worse. I took on more responsibilities at Petrovtek, spending my days in the office on Lightning Prospect, learning everything Grandpa could pass on to me. "Marina, I'm not worried about the company," he said, sitting at the samovar in his study at the dacha. "But I worry about you and your mother when I'm gone." I assured him that I could handle it, but we both knew that Catherine was vulnerable. Roman knew how to manipulate her weaknesses, playing on her insecurities with frightening precision. Little did I know that Grandfather had already devised a plan that would force each of us to reveal our true intentions. My 23rd birthday arrived on a clear September Saturday. Grandpa insisted on a modest celebration at his dacha outside St. Petersburg, but his modesty included 50 guests. Garlands decorated the garden, and a string quartet played by the pond. The guests included relatives, close friends, and key managers of Petrov TK. Ekaterina and Roman arrived late, Mom in a couture dress and Roman in an expensive suit with a forced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Happy birthday, darling," Mom said, kissing the air near my cheeks. And Roman nodded, but immediately began looking for influential people in the crowd. "Isn't that Pavel Ivanov from the Venture Fund?" he asked, barely glancing at me. I held back a sharp reply and thanked them for coming. All evening, I noticed how Roman would talk to the company's executives, making them feel awkward. My cousin Nejda pulled me aside after one such conversation. "Your stepfather asked me how much I think Grandpa's business is worth," she whispered. "Who even asks that?" At 9 o'clock, Grandpa tapped his glass, calling for silence. Despite his physical weakness and cane, his voice first, "Let's congratulate my beautiful granddaughter on her birthday," he began, and the guests sang congratulations in chorus. I stood there, embarrassed, while everyone applauded. "Marina, the light of my life," continued Grandpa. "After losing her father, she became even more precious to me." His voice wavered, and I squeezed his hand. "I have an announcement to make today," he said, straightening up. Everyone froze. After 50 years at the helm of Petrovtek, I had decided to retire. A murmur ran through the crowd. This was news even to me. I looked at him in amazement, but he just winked. The company needs fresh blood and unrivaled honesty. I have seen Marina grow into a smart, hard-working woman who understands the heart and soul of Petrovtek. My heart pounded as I realized what he was getting at. Instead, Roman suddenly focused, cutting off the conversation. "As a birthday present, I am handing over the controlling stake and management of Petrovtek to Marina as of today." The guests gasped, I froze in shock, and Grandpa ate. The leaders, who had known me since childhood, began to applaud, followed by the rest. My cousin Nejda cast an envious glance, but my attention was drawn to Mom and Roman. Ekaterina's smile was strained, and her eyes flashed with anger. Roman didn't hide his irritation, his face flushed, his jaw clenched. "Ivan, this is unexpected," Mom said, trying to appear calm. "Such family matters should be discussed in private." Grandfather smiled. "There is nothing to discuss, Ekaterina. The documents are signed." Our lawyer Vladimir Fedorov stepped forward with a folder. "Everything is ready, Ivan. We just need Marina's signature." The next hour flew by in a blur. I signed the documents, my hand shaking with realization. The company worth 12.6 billion rubles was now mine. The executives congratulated me. Sofiachenko hugged me. Your father would be proud. I saw Roman whispering to his mother, whose mask of joy was cracking at the seams. I knew they wouldn't give up without a fight. The party at Grandpa's dacha lasted until midnight, and when the last guests left, only relatives remained in the huge house. I was helping the staff clean up the kitchen when Mom Ekaterina intercepted me. We need to talk, she said sharply. In the office now. Roman followed her like a thundercloud. I followed him and felt the conflict that had been smoldering all evening brewing. Grandfather Ivan went to bed early, citing fatigue after a long day. Roman slammed the door of the office shut. The warm room with bookcases, which had always been my refuge, suddenly seemed cramped and stuffy. What was that? Ekaterina demanded answers, packing in front of her grandfather's desk. Grandpa's friend for his birthday, apparently, I answered, trying to speak calmly. I was as surprised as you were. That's irresponsible, Roman intervened, throwing aside his usual politeness. You just graduated from university. You can't run a company of this size. I straightened up. I've been working at Petrovtek since I was 17. I know the company like the back of my hand. Ekaterina waved her hand. Working in the summer is not the same as running the entire business. So Roman and I decided that he would take on the role of CEO while you studied. The audacity of their words stunned me. Excuse me? I asked. That makes sense, Mom continued, as if they had rehearsed this in advance. Roman has management experience. He will handle current affairs while you finish your studies. No way, I snapped. Grandfather made me the owner and CEO. The documents are signed. Everything is decided. Roman dropped the mask of politeness. Listen, spoiled girl, he growled. The company needs an experienced leader, not a girl who plays business because her grandfather felt sorry for her. Roman, Mom cried, but she was more concerned with his tone than the substance of his words. No, Catherine, she needs to hear this, he snapped. Roman, your grandfather is a sentimental old man who makes irrational decisions. The board will never accept you as CEO. They will just laugh. My hands were shaking with anger, but my voice remained firm. The council has known me my whole life. Many have already expressed their support for me. That support will disappear when they realize you can't cope, Roman chuckled. Be reasonable, Marina. Let me take care of business. You can keep the title and make a profit. I suddenly understood clearly. Roman had planned everything from the very beginning. Marry my mother, gain my grandfather's trust, take over the company. He just didn't expect his grandfather to hand everything over to me. The answer is no, I said firmly. I am the owner and CEO of Petrov TK. Grandfather chose me, not you. Ekaterina's face turned to stone. It's not just about you, Marina. This is our family heritage. Roman and I are trying to protect you from a huge mistake. Steal my company? I asked incredulously. It's not stealing if it's family, Roman snapped. But if you want to be stubborn, fine. Here's how it's going to be. Either you accept our help in running the company, or you pack your things and get out of the house. I looked at my mother, expecting her to refute this outrageous ultimatum. She was silent. You'll throw me out because I won't give your husband, whom you know, 5 minutes. Take my inheritance, I asked, and my voice shook. Ekaterina's eyes sparkled. This is my home too, Marina. Roman is my husband. If you don't respect our place in the family, then yes, you should leave. The betrayal burned like a knife. My own mother chose this man over me. Okay, I whispered. I'll leave. Don't be dramatic, Mom sighed. Just agree to Roman's offer and we can all move on as a family. What family? I muttered, heading for the door. As I reached for the handle, a low chuckle sounded. We turned to see Grandpa standing in the doorway, dressed in his best clothes, leaning on a cane. There was a fire in his eyes that I hadn't seen in years. Well, he said in a deceptively light tone. What an interesting family conversation. Roman turned pale. Ivan, we were just discussing the transition. I heard what you were discussing, his grandfather interrupted him. And I must say, Roman, you revealed your cards earlier than I expected. An impatient man, huh? He looked at his mother. Ekaterina, I'm disappointed but not surprised. Dad, please, she began. But the grandfather raised his hand. Marina, he turned to me, pack your bag. Not because you're being kicked out, but because today you'll be staying in the guest house at the dacha. Tomorrow we will start Plan B, Plan B. Roman was wary. Grandfather's smile was cold. Did you really think I'd give up my life's work without protection from vultures like you? I've been in business longer than you've been alive. As I walked out, tears streamed down my cheeks. But with Grandpa at my back, I felt the first sparks of righteous anger that would sustain me in what lay ahead. I woke up in the guest house at my grandfather's dacha, having not slept a wink the entire night. The bitterness of my mother and Roman's betrayal was mixed with a determination that grew stronger with each passing hour. In the morning, Grandfather Ivan showed up at exactly 8 in his best business suit, which the employees called a combat suit. He was holding a thick folder in his hands. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, knowing the answer perfectly well. "Not really," I admitted, pouring us both coffee and samovars. He nodded well. Anger and indignation are better fuel than complacency. You'll need that fire today. Over breakfast, Grandpa told us that Roman had been more brazen than we thought. In the 3 weeks since their honeymoon, he had met with members of the board of directors, hinting that Grandpa's health was influencing his decision. He had contacted key clients, introducing himself as the future leader of Petrov TEK, and had even sought a buyer for Tehendfura, our main competitor, known for taking apart acquired companies. "How do you know that?" I asked, amazed. Grandpa winked. "I had him checked after he proposed to your mother." He showed me the photos. Roman dating Tekken for managers, Roman with another woman. Roman shakes hands with Sergei Kolsnikov, the head known for aggressive takeovers. "Roman Biaf is not his real name," the grandfather continued. "This is Roman Schwartz. He changed his identity twice, specializing in marrying rich women to steal their assets and disappear." I was stunned. "Does Mom know?" Grandpa shook his head. "She sees what she wants to see." He explained that we had to act quickly. I understood from the loot how serious Roman's steps were. Arriving at Petrovtech headquarters on Lightning Prospect, I discovered that my access card was not working. A new security guard, who did not know me, refused to let me in without permission. I called Sofia Chenko, our technical director, who came down and showed me inside. "Roman sent out a memo," she explained in the elevator. "He declared himself acting CEO by family appointment. All decisions require his approval before review by the board." I clenched my fists. "He has no authority." "Most of us know that," Sophia said carefully. "But he's persuasive, especially with the new council members, and your mother supports him." The situation was worse than I thought. Roman took over my father's office, which was meant for me, and he was acting like he owned it. When I walked in, he smiled his rehearsed smile. "Marina, it's good that you're here. We need to discuss your role during the transition period." "Get out of my office," I snapped. His smile hardened. "Your mother and I spoke to the council. They have doubts about your experience. Until these issues are resolved, I will take control." "It's not your decision," I replied. "The board will decide at an emergency meeting tomorrow," he retorted smoothly. "In the meantime, keep an eye on the department heads." Learn business. I was humiliated in my own company. Access to the system was limited. The locks on the offices were changed. By evening, all employees received a letter that the department's decision required Roman's approval. This nightmare continued for 3 days. Ekaterina called the council members, hinting at my emotional instability. There were rumors that I was being removed due to inexperience or even alcohol problems. The staff who supported me were given unwanted assignments. I lived in my grandfather's guest house, not returning to my mother's apartment. Every morning, my grandfather asked, "Are you ready to fight back?" On the 4th day, I broke down. "They are winning, grandfather." Even those who have known me all my life are starting to doubt. He put the newspaper down. Finished feeling sorry for himself. You thought running a company for 12.5 and 6 billion rubles would be easy. This is your first challenge as a leader. Will you give in to the swindler or will you prove it? Why did I choose you? His words hurt, but they lit a spark in me. What's plan B? I asked. Grandpa smiled like a shark. I thought you'd never ask. He showed the documents about the transfer of the company. I owned 70%. Grandfather 25%. 5% for public shareholders. But the main thing is point 23B, no transactions over 1.05 million rubles, hearing or firing managers. Reorganization is impossible in the first year without the signature of both of us. Roman can sit in the office, but he can't do anything, said grandfather. He had prepared key employees Sofia Yuchenko and Yuri Volkov, our financial director, in advance so that they would watch Roman, documenting his actions. The old guard has been loyal to me for decades, he explained. They are waiting to see if you will fight. That night we met with lawyer Mikhail Rosov, a specialist in takeover defense. We developed a counterattack. Tomorrow's meeting of the Mikhail Smiled Council will be our stage. I felt determination burning in me. Roman thought he was dealing with an inexperienced girl. He was wrong. The boardroom of Petrovtek on the top floor of our headquarters on Lightny Prospect was full by 9 in the morning. All 12 board members, key executives, and the legal team were seated at a massive oak table. Roman took the place of the grandfather's head next to his mother, Ekaterina. He was wearing an expensive suit with an expression of concerned about the case. I entered together with grandfather Ivan and lawyer Mikhail Rosov. Their appearance clearly caught Roman off guard. Ivan, he stood up, we weren't expecting you because of your health. My health is quite good, the grandfather answered calmly, sitting down in the middle of the table. I sat down next to him, Mikhail on the other side. Roman quickly recovered. I'm glad you're here. We are discussing a delicate transition period. Marina's inheritance is legitimate, but there are serious doubts about her ability to lead. The new board members nodded. Roman proposed temporary management, leaving me with only a nominal role. It's a compromise in the interests of the company, he finished. Any objections? Yes, I said clearly, standing up. I am categorically against. Everyone looked at me. Roman's smile tightened. Marina, I understand this is emotional. This is not about emotions, I interrupted. This is about facts. I nodded to Mikhail, and he handed out the folders. Here is information about Roman Belov, or rather, Roman Schwartz. Roman's face turned white. You will find details of his 3 previous marriages to wealthy women. Each lasted less than 2 years, after which he disappeared with their assets. There is evidence of his meetings with Techninfura and potential buyers of Petrovtek. The council members began to make noise as they leafed through the documents. Mom looked shocked as she read the materials. This is absurd, Roman blurted out. Fakes. Everything is confirmed, including police reports from 2 ex-wives, Mikhail smoothly interjected. I continued. Roman planned this from the very beginning. His goal is not to manage, but to sell off assets. Sofia Chenko confirmed. He accessed confidential files without permission and contacted 3 buyers, Yuri Volkov added. He requested access to offshore accounts and inquired about how quickly assets could be liquidated. Roman jumped up. This is an attack on my reputation. He turned to his mother. Ekaterina, will you let them talk about your husband like that? She looked at the photo of Roman with another woman, taken 3 weeks ago, and at the statement of money transfers from her accounts. Is it true? She whispered. Grandfather cleared his throat. One more thing. Clause 23B of the transfer agreement requires my and Marina's consent to major decisions in the first year. Council President Viktor Tikhonov read the document. So Roman has no authority to make the proposed changes. None, confirmed the grandfather. Roman exploded. You old manipulator, set it all up. I protected my granddaughter and the company. The grandfather answered calmly. The hall was in chaos. Roman was shouting, the council members were whispering. Mom sat frozen. Viktor Tikhonov called for order. The leadership issues are clear. I propose officially recognizing Marina as CEO and Ivan as advisor. The vote was unanimous. Roman rushed to the door, throwing at me, "This is not the end." "I'm married to your mother. I have leverage." Grandpa intercepted. "Your things have already been removed from Ekaterina's house. The locks have been changed. Divorce papers are being prepared. Your accounts have been frozen." Roman turned pale. "I called security. Your things will be sent to your lawyer." They took him away, still protesting. I turned to the council. "Thank you for your support. I know you have doubts about my experience, and rightfully so. I am learning a lot, but I have grown up in this company. I promise to work harder than anyone else to preserve my grandfather's legacy and move Petrovtech forward." The leaders came up and shook my hand. Sophia hugged me. "Your father would be proud." The only people left in the room were me, my grandfather, and my mother, who looked broken. "I'm sorry, Marina," she sobbed. "I didn't think he—" I hugged her, surprising us both. "We'll talk later, Mom. You need time." She left with Grandpa's assistant. "You did well," said Grandpa, when we were left behind, both with Roman and with Mom. I collapsed into the chair, exhausted. "I still can't believe we did it." Grandpa sat down next to me. "This is just the beginning." Running a company means constantly facing such challenges. I looked at the panorama of St. Petersburg. "I'm scared, Grandpa." He took my hand. "Okay, fear keeps you on your toes. But remember how you stood up for yourself and the company today. That's why I chose you." I smiled. For the first time in days, sincerely. "What next?" "Next," he said, pointing to the director's office. "You take your office and start working. You have a company to run."